The massive meeting hall buzzed with alien voices as representatives from 43 different worlds gathered for another day of galactic politics. Each species sat in their designated areas, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes that would have amazed any human tourist. But today was not about tourism or peaceful exchanges. Ambassador Crix of the Thakari leaned back in his floating chair, his forearms crossed in satisfaction as he watched the human delegation enter the chamber. The humans looked so small compared to most other species, so fragile with their soft skin and lack of natural weapons. It always amused him how these creatures had somehow managed to reach the stars. Despite being so obviously weak, the topic of today's discussion was military prowess. Specifically, which worlds could contribute meaningful forces to defend against threats in the Outer Rim territories. Each species had spent the morning presenting holographic displays of their homeworld's most dangerous predators, the creatures that had forged their ancestors into warriors, capable of conquering space. The Vorthan representative had shown images of the bone crushers of his world, massive beasts with jaws that could snap starship hulls in half. The Nexari delegate displayed the crystal hunters that stalked their frozen homeworld, creatures of living mineral that could phase through solid matter to strike at prey. Even the peaceful Ilari had proudly presented their void Kraken's space-dwelling monsters they had learned to ride through asteroid fields, but when it came time for the human delegation to present, silence fell over the chamber like a heavy blanket. Captain David Reed stood at the center of the floor, looking uncomfortable as dozens of alien eyes focused on him. Behind him, Dr. Emily Watson held a datapad but made no move to activate the holographic display system. "Well, human, Ambassador," Crix called out, his translator making his voice sound mockingly sweet. "Surely your species has some great predators to show us. What mighty beasts did your ancestors overcome to earn their place among the stars?" David shifted his weight from one foot to the other, clearly struggling with how to respond. Around the chamber, various aliens began making sounds that their translators rendered as laughter or amusement. The humans' obvious discomfort only seemed to encourage them. "Our world is different," David finally said, his voice barely carrying to the back of the chamber. "We prefer not to discuss such matters." This response brought an explosion of chittering, growling, and clicking from the assembled delegates. The Keth representative, a large reptilian creature covered in natural armor plating, rose from his seat with scales rippling in patterns that indicated extreme amusement. "Different how, exactly?" the Keth demanded. "Did your species evolve on some garden world where the most dangerous creature was a flower that might give you allergies?" More laughter rippled through the chamber. Several delegates were now actively making jokes about human weakness, their translators turning alien humor into cutting remarks about peaceful farmers and gentle gardeners who had somehow stumbled into space travel. The moderator, a crystalline being that served as the neutral leader of council sessions, pulsed with bureaucratic impatience. "Captain Reed, the purpose of these presentations is to assess each world's defensive capabilities. If Earth lacks significant predatory species, this information is relevant to military planning." David's jaw tightened, but he maintained his diplomatic composure. "As I said, our world situation is unique. We have found it better to focus on technology and cooperation rather than dwelling on past conflicts with dangerous fauna." This answer seemed to be exactly what the alien delegates wanted to hear. Ambassador Crix's mandibles clicked rapidly in what his species considered high humor. "Past conflicts," he says. "Tell me, human, what was your greatest victory against these mysterious predators? Did you perhaps defeat a rabbit that was slightly larger than usual?" The chamber erupted in alien laughter again. Dr. Watson stepped forward, her face flushed with anger, but David held up a hand to stop her from speaking. The gesture was noticed by several delegates, who began speculating about what the female human might have wanted to say. "Perhaps she wanted to tell us about their battle against the dreaded singing birds," suggested the Vorthan representative, causing another wave of amusement to sweep through the chamber. As the laughter died down, the real purpose of the session became clear. The moderator activated a large display showing star charts of the Outer Rim territories, specifically highlighting 3 systems that had gone dark in recent months. The Devourer fleet has been detected moving through Sector 7, the moderator announced, its crystalline form pulsing with serious authority. Intelligence reports indicate they will reach the inner systems within 30 standard days. Each world must prepare to contribute forces for mutual defense. The mention of the Devourers sent a chill through the chamber that even the universal translators couldn't mask. The nomadic fleet was legendary for its hunger, consuming entire ecosystems to fuel their biomechanical ships as they swept through space like a plague of locusts. Ambassador Crix leaned forward in his chair, his earlier amusement replaced by calculating coldness. Naturally, the Council must prioritize defense resources for worlds with proven military capabilities. Species that have never faced serious predators are unlikely to contribute meaningfully against the Devourers. Other delegates nodded agreement. The logic was simple and brutal. Why waste defensive ships protecting weak worlds when stronger species needed those resources to mount effective resistance? The humans may contribute their evacuation ships, suggested the Keth representative, with false generosity. Surely they have vessels suitable for fleeing when real warriors are needed. David felt something cold settle in his stomach as he realized what was happening. The Council was writing off Earth before the Devourers even arrived, dismissing humanity as too weak to defend and too insignificant to waste resources protecting. We request formal consideration for mutual defense agreements, David said formally, following diplomatic protocol even as he watched his world's fate being decided by aliens who saw humans as helpless prey. The Council will consider all requests, the moderator replied with bureaucratic non-commitment that everyone recognized as polite rejection. However, available defense fleets must be allocated based on strategic value and demonstrated military capability. As the session moved on to other business, David found himself studying the faces of the alien delegates. Each species radiated confidence born from evolutionary warfare, the kind of certainty that came from ancestors who had fought against impossible odds and won. They looked at humans and saw soft creatures from a soft world, beings who had never been tested by nature's fury. If only they knew the truth about what lay sleeping in Earth's deepest places, waiting for someone foolish enough to wake it up. 2 days of tense waiting came to an end when the Council's official vote was announced through the Chamber's communication systems. The result was exactly what David had feared but still hoped against: 43 votes against providing Earth with defensive support. With only 7 younger species showing any sympathy for humanity's situation, the news came delivered, personally by Ambassador Crix, who seemed to take particular pleasure in the formal rejection. His forearms gestured grandly as he read from the official Council document, his mandibles clicking with barely concealed satisfaction. By majority vote, the Galactic Council has determined that defensive fleet allocations must be prioritized based on proven combat effectiveness and strategic military value, Crix announced, his translator rendering each word with bureaucratic precision. The human homeworld, while possessing certain technological innovations, lacks the demonstrated martial traditions necessary to justify significant resource expenditure. Dr. Watson gripped her datapad so tightly that the metal casing began to crack under the pressure. Around the chamber, alien delegates nodded approvingly at what they clearly saw as a reasonable decision. The stronger worlds deserved protection while the weak would have to fend for themselves. The Vorthan representative rumbled his agreement, his massive bone ridges shifting to display dominance patterns. Our ancestors earned their place in the galaxy by defeating the Blade Hunters with nothing but primitive weapons and tribal courage. The Nexari proved themselves against the crystal storms that rage across their homeworld. Even the gentle Elari showed their worth by learning to ride the void krakens of their system. He paused, letting his gaze fall on the human delegation with obvious contempt. But humans speak only of farmers and engineers, of peaceful creatures and gentle rains. How can such a species be expected to stand against the Devourers? David forced himself to remain calm even as rage built in his chest like molten metal. What about our technological contributions to the Council? Our advances in faster-than-light communication systems? Our terraforming innovations that have helped settle dozens of worlds? Ambassador Crix waved a dismissive gesture with his lower arms. Technology can be purchased or stolen, human. What matters when facing the Devourers is the warrior spirit. That comes from being forged in mortal combat against superior predators. Your species simply lacks this fundamental requirement. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Earth would face the approaching fleet alone, abandoned by the galactic community because its people were judged too soft to be worth saving. Perhaps evacuation would be the wisest course, suggested the moderator, its crystalline form pulsing with what might have been sympathy. There are colony worlds in the inner systems that could accommodate refugee populations. The word refugee hit the human delegation like a physical blow. The idea of abandoning Earth, fleeing from humanity's birth world and leaving behind 4 billion years of evolutionary history was almost incomprehensible. Ambassador Crix leaned forward with an expression that his species might have considered generous. The Thakari Confederation would be willing to provide emergency evacuation transport for a reasonable percentage of your population, perhaps 10 or 15%. Your leaders, your scientists, your most valuable cultural artifacts could be preserved. He gestured with his upper arms in a motion that conveyed inevitable loss. The rest would unfortunately need to take their chances with the Devourers. Our transport capacity has limits, you understand. David stared at the alien ambassador for a long moment, feeling something ancient and dangerous stir in the depths of his mind. It was the same feeling his ancestors might have experienced when facing down saber-toothed cats on the African savanna, or when early humans first decided to hunt mammoth despite being a tenth their size. That's very generous of you, David said quietly, his voice carrying a strange calm that made Dr. Watson look at him with sudden alertness. I'll be sure to relay your offer to Earth Command immediately. After the session ended and the alien delegates departed to celebrate their wise resource allocation, the human delegation gathered in their assigned quarters aboard the Council station. Dr. Watson immediately activated the privacy screens and turned to face David with fire in her eyes. They're going to let Earth burn, she said bluntly, her scientific objectivity cracking under the weight of what they had just witnessed. 4 billion people, and they're writing us off because we haven't spent the last hour bragging about our predators like some kind of interstellar nature documentary. David activated his encrypted communication link to Earth Command, watching as the holographic image of Admiral Torres materialized in their quarters. The Admiral's scarred face immediately read the situation from David's expression, her own. Features hardening into the mask of command she wore during the worst crises. The Council refused our request, David reported without any diplomatic softening. They consider humanity too weak to defend effectively and too unproven to justify defensive support. The Thakari are offering evacuation ships for 15% of our population. Admiral Torres remained silent for several long seconds, her expression cycling through anger, disgust, and finally settling into something cold and calculating. Behind her, David could see the bustle of Earth's military command center, officers moving with the urgent purpose of people preparing for war. Long-range sensors indicate the Devourer fleet will reach our system in 18 standard days, the Admiral said finally. How long do you estimate it would take to change the Council's opinion about humanity's military capabilities? Dr. Watson stepped into the hologram's field of view, her earlier anger now focused into scientific precision. Admiral, with your permission, I believe it's time for a comprehensive educational presentation. Something that will help our alien friends understand exactly what Earth has been keeping quiet about for the past 2 centuries. What did you have in mind, Doctor? Dr. Watson's smile carried an edge that would have made the Council delegates extremely nervous if they could have seen it. The Deep Archives, Admiral. The classified files marked Extinction Recovery Project and Species Termination Events. I think it's time our galactic neighbors learned about the real history of life on Earth. Admiral Torres nodded slowly, her own expression showing the same dangerous satisfaction. Doctor, you have full authorization to access whatever materials you need from the restricted databases. Captain Reed, I want you to call an emergency council session for tomorrow morning. Tell them you have critical new information about Earth's defensive capabilities. What specifically should I tell them we're bringing to the presentation? The Admiral's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Tell them we're bringing our war beasts. Captain, all of them. The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving the human delegation alone with the weight of what was about to happen. Dr. Watson was already accessing her datapad, pulling up files that had been classified since humanity's first contact with galactic civilization. Are you sure about this? David asked quietly. Once we show them what we're really capable of, there's no going back to being underestimated. Dr. Watson looked up from her datapad, her eyes reflecting the same predatory instinct that had once helped early humans hunt creatures 10 times their size. David, they just told us they're willing to watch our entire species die because they think we're too weak to matter. I'd say the time for being underestimated is officially over. The emergency session convened 12 hours later, with most delegates attending only because protocol demanded their presence. Ambassador Crix arrived fashionably late, making a show of checking his chronometer to emphasize how little importance he placed on whatever desperate plea the humans might be preparing. Around the chamber, alien representatives displayed varying degrees of boredom and irritation. The Vorthan delegate was actively reviewing military reports from other sectors, clearly considering the session a waste of valuable time. Several smaller species had sent junior representatives instead of their primary ambassadors, a calculated insult that spoke volumes about their expectations. Dr. Watson stood at the center of the chamber floor, carrying a sealed data cylinder that seemed to make the chamber's security scanners emit nervous chirping sounds. The device was larger than the standard diplomatic presentation equipment, its black surface unmarked except for a series of warning labels in human script that the universal translators seemed reluctant to process. The moderator's crystalline form pulsed with bureaucratic impatience as it called the session to order. Captain Reed has requested this emergency assembly, claiming to possess new information regarding his species' defensive capabilities. Given the time constraints facing all council members, we hope this presentation will be more substantive than yesterday's evasions. David nodded calmly, his demeanor markedly different from the uncomfortable diplomacy he had displayed during previous sessions. Honored Council, you have expressed concern about humanity's apparent lack of experience with dangerous predators. Dr. Watson has prepared a comprehensive overview of Earth's biological warfare heritage. A ripple of mild interest passed through the chamber. The Nexari representative leaned forward slightly, her crystalline features catching the chamber's lighting. Biological warfare? This could prove more interesting than expected, though many species employ such tactics. The Alterans use modified toxins, and our own people deploy crystalline parasites as weapons. Dr. Watson connected her data cylinder to the chamber's holographic display system, her movements precise and deliberate. What I'm about to show you are not weapons we created. These are the natural predators of Earth, the creatures that shaped human evolution through 65 million years of continuous warfare. The chamber's lights dimmed as the first hologram materialized above the assembly floor. A Tyrannosaurus Rex appeared in perfect detail, its massive form frozen in mid-stride with jaws gaping wide enough to engulf most of the delegates present. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably as the display rotated to show the creature from multiple angles. This is Tyrannosaurus Rex, Dr. Watson began, her voice taking on the measured cadence of a professor delivering a lecture that would reshape galactic understanding forever. 13 meters in length, 4 meters tall at the hip, weighing approximately 8 tons. Its bite force exceeded 12,000 pounds per square inch, sufficient to crush any known starship hull material. Ambassador Crix's mandibles clicked dismissively, though his tone carried less certainty than before. Impressive for a fossil, perhaps, but clearly extinct. Ancient bones hardly constitute current defensive capability. Dr. Watson smiled with the patience of someone about to reveal a carefully prepared surprise. You are absolutely correct that this particular specimen no longer exists in the wild. It perished approximately 65 million years ago during what humans call the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event. However, this extinction was merely the most recent in Earth's geological history. The hologram shifted to display a complex timeline that stretched back hundreds of millions of years. Red markers indicated catastrophic events that sent concerned murmurs through the alien assembly. Earth has experienced 5 major extinction events in its biological history, Dr. Watson continued relentlessly. During each event, between 70 and 96% of all species were completely eliminated. Each time, life not only recovered, but evolved to become more dangerous, more resilient, and more efficiently lethal than before. A new hologram appeared showing creatures that seemed designed by nightmare, massive armored fish with jaws like industrial shears, early arthropods that resembled living siege engines, and tentacled marine predators the size of small spacecraft. The Ordovician extinction 445 million years ago. Glaciation and climate change eliminated 85% of all species. What survived became these. The display cycled through a parade of primordial horrors that made several delegates reach for their emergency communicators. The Devonian extinction 375 million years ago. Oceanic anoxia and volcanic activity destroyed 75% of all life. The survivors evolved into these. Now the holograms showed the ancestors of terrestrial life, amphibians with teeth like spear points, early reptiles with natural armor that could stop energy weapons, insects the size of atmospheric shuttles. The chamber had grown completely silent. Even the moderator's administrative functions seemed suspended as it focused all sensors on the horrifying parade of evolutionary warfare being displayed before them. The Permian extinction, Dr. Watson continued with remorseless scientific precision. 252 million years ago. Volcanic activity, climate change, and oceanic acidification killed 96% of all species on Earth. It is known as the Great Dying. What emerged from this holocaust were the archosaurs. The new holograms defied rational comprehension. Crocodilians with skulls longer than most passenger vehicles. Armored predators with multiple rows of teeth that could shear through starship plating. Flying reptiles with wingspans that could cast shadows over entire cities. The Triassic extinction, 201 million years ago. Again, massive die-offs. Again, the survivors became something worse. This time they became dinosaurs, creatures so perfectly adapted for warfare that they dominated Earth for over 160 million years. Ambassador Crix found his voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. These are still ancient creatures, human. Fascinating from a paleontological perspective, but hardly relevant to current military threats. Dr. Watson's smile widened in a way that would have sent Earth's ancestors running for the nearest cave. Then came the 5th extinction, Ambassador. The asteroid impact that ended the age of dinosaurs. But something remarkable happened afterward. The hologram shifted to show the rise of mammalian predators, cats with fangs longer than swords, bears the size of buildings, wolves with jaws that could crush tank armor, and elephants with tusks, capable of piercing starship hulls. After the dinosaurs vanished, mammals filled the empty predator niches. For 30 million years, Earth was ruled by creatures that would have given the dinosaurs nightmares. Giant predators roamed every continent, apex hunters that had learned from the mistakes of their predecessors. The display focused on a final image, a small bipedal figure standing among the bones of massive creatures, holding what appeared to be a simple stone-tipped spear. But then something unprecedented happened in galactic evolutionary history, Dr. Watson said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the chamber. After 65 million years of this biological arms race, after 5 extinction events that reset the evolutionary clock each time, there emerged a single species that not only survived alongside these apex predators but systematically hunted every one of them to extinction using nothing but stone tools and cooperative tactics. The implications hit the alien delegates like a physical wave. Several species that had been dismissing humanity as weak prey suddenly found themselves reevaluating everything they thought they knew about evolutionary pressure and survival of the fittest. Humans didn't evolve on a peaceful garden world, Dr. Watson concluded, her words carrying the weight of 4 billion years of evolutionary warfare. We evolved in the most brutally competitive biological environment in known galactic history. We are the species that looked at creatures like these and decided we were hungrier. The chamber remained in absolute silence for nearly a full minute before Ambassador Crix finally managed to speak again. But these creatures are extinct now. They cannot assist in your defense against the Devourers. Dr. Watson's smile became something that would haunt the nightmares of every delegate present, who said they were extinct. The silence that followed Dr. Watson's final words stretched through the chamber like a living thing, broken only by the nervous clicking of various alien breathing apparatus and the soft hum of universal translators struggling to process implications that seemed to exceed their programming capabilities. Ambassador Crix was the first to find his voice, though it emerged as a strangled whisper that his species' equivalent of vocal cords could barely manage. What do you mean, who said they were extinct? We have observed your world for decades through orbital surveys and cultural exchanges. There are no large predators, no dangerous fauna of any significance. Dr. Watson exchanged a glance with Captain Reed, who nodded almost imperceptibly. The moment of truth had arrived, the point where humanity would either secure its place in galactic civilization or become the most feared species in known space. Honored Council, Dr. Watson began, her voice taking on the clinical precision of a scientist delivering research findings that would reshape understanding of biology itself. When I stated that these creatures were extinct, I was referring specifically to their status in natural ecosystems. What I did not mention is that humanity has spent the last 2 centuries developing comprehensive de-extinction protocols. The holographic display activated again, showing images that made several delegates recoil from their seats in instinctive terror. Massive underground facilities stretched for kilometers beneath Earth's surface, carved from solid bedrock and lined with containment systems that appeared designed to hold creatures of impossible size and strength. The Lazarus Project began in 2157. Shortly after our first contact with galactic civilization, Dr. Watson continued, her words falling into the stunned silence like stones into still water. Our military leadership determined that humanity's greatest advantage lay not in competing with alien technology, but in leveraging our unique evolutionary heritage. The images showed resurrection chambers the size of aircraft hangars, filled with biogel and genetic reconstruction equipment that represented the pinnacle of human scientific achievement. But what drew gasps of horror from the assembled aliens were the shapes moving within those chambers, massive forms that stirred with unmistakably predatory life. We didn't simply bring back extinct species exactly as they existed millions of years ago, Dr. Watson explained, her tone remaining academically neutral even as she described what amounted to the most ambitious military project in galactic history. We incorporated genetic improvements based on modern materials science, enhanced nervous systems for faster reaction times, and specialized organs designed for combat in vacuum environments. The hologram zoomed in on one of the larger containment facilities, revealing a holding cell that could have housed a small starship. Inside, something moved in the shadows, something with eyes that reflected light with an intelligence that was definitely not prehistoric. Meet Alpha 7. Dr. Watson announced as if introducing a guest at a formal dinner. Giganotosaurus enhanced with contemporary military biotechnology. 16 meters in length, weighing 14 tons, capable of operating in hard vacuum for extended periods, and possessing tactical reasoning capabilities equivalent to a human military officer. Ambassador Crix's mandibles began chattering uncontrollably, a sign of extreme stress in his species that several other delegates recognized with growing alarm. This is madness. You've created weapons of mass destruction. The Council must be informed immediately. The Council is being informed, Captain Reed interjected, his voice carrying a cold authority that silenced the chamber more effectively than any diplomatic protocol. What you're seeing represents Earth's standard planetary defense network. Every major population center, every military installation, every strategic resource on our world is protected by genetically enhanced prehistoric predators. The display shifted to show deployment statistics that sent waves of panic through the alien delegates. Project Lazarus currently maintains active populations of 47 different extinct predator species, each modified for modern warfare. Current inventory includes 200 Tyrannosaurus variants, 150 enhanced saber-toothed cats, 300 dire wolves with neural interface coordination systems, 50 cave bears adapted for zero-gravity combat, and approximately 1,000 smaller predator variants designed for specific tactical applications. Dr. Watson gestured to a global map of Earth showing red markers distributed across every continent and ocean basin. These facilities are networked across our entire planet, with additional installations on 3 orbital platforms and hidden bases throughout our solar system. The creatures are maintained in controlled hibernation, ready for deployment within 4 hours of activation orders. The chamber erupted in chaos as delegates frantically consulted with their military advisors. Through private communication channels, several species were already calculating jump routes away from human space, while others began emergency sessions to reassess their diplomatic positions regarding Earth. The Keth representative managed to overcome his species' instinctive fear response long enough to ask the question that was terrifying every alien present. How long have you been planning this? How long have you been preparing for war while maintaining the facade of peaceful cooperation? We weren't preparing for war, Captain Reed replied with deadly calm. We were preparing for survival. There's a significant difference. War implies choice in the matter. Survival means doing whatever becomes necessary when someone else has already made the choice for you. Admiral Torres' hologram materialized in the center of the chamber without any warning, her scarred features addressing the Council directly in a way that violated every diplomatic protocol but commanded immediate attention through sheer presence of authority. Honored delegates, I am Admiral Torres, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces. As of 2 hours ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected the Devourer fleet's emergence at the edge of our solar system. They will reach Earth orbit in 14 standard days. The panic that had been building in the chamber now exploded into open terror. Several smaller species representatives were already reaching for emergency evacuation communicators, while others demanded immediate military escorts to remove them from human space. Therefore, Admiral Torres continued with the inexorable certainty of a natural disaster. I am formally implementing Emergency Defense Protocol 7, all Lazarus Project. Assets are being moved to active operational status. Hibernation cycles are being terminated across all facilities. Dr. Watson added quietly, almost conversationally, the war beasts are waking up. The holographic display now showed live feeds from Lazarus facilities across Earth as massive containment. Tanks began draining their biogel contents and restraint systems disengaged with mechanical precision. In one chamber, an enhanced Spinosaurus stretched to its full 20-meter height, its modified dorsal fin crackling with bioelectric discharges that could disable Starship electronics. In another facility, a pack of dire wolves the size of small tanks began moving in perfect coordination, their neural interface modifications allowing them to function as a single tactical organism. Ambassador Crick stumbled backward from his position, his forearms trembling as the full implications of what humanity had been hiding finally penetrated his understanding. You're all insane. Those creatures will turn on you eventually. Predators cannot be permanently controlled. Dr. Watson's smile carried the accumulated confidence of 65 million years of successful evolutionary warfare. Ambassador, you're thinking like prey. Humans aren't prey animals. We're pack hunters. We're the species that looked at wolves and decided they would make excellent hunting partners. We're the people who took the most dangerous predators in our planet's history and convinced them to join our pack. She gestured to feeds showing humans in advanced environmental suits working alongside the awakening creatures, running coordination, protocols, and tactical assessments with the easy familiarity of partners who had trained together for decades. These aren't just weapons, Honored Council. They're our family. They're our hunting pack. They're the children of the world that made us what we are, and we're about to show the Devourers exactly what that means. The Admiral's hologram addressed the chamber one final time before disappearing. The Council has 48 hours to reconsider its position regarding mutual defense agreements. After that point, humanity will defend Earth using whatever methods we determine necessary. I strongly suggest you establish a wide operational perimeter around our solar system. As the human delegation prepared to leave the chamber behind a collection of terrified alien dignitaries, Dr. Watson paused at the exit to deliver one final piece of information that would ensure no council member slept peacefully for years to come. Oh, and Honored Council, the creatures I've shown you today represent only our active defensive assets. The deep storage vaults contain specimens from extinction events, so ancient that we're still not entirely certain which planet they originally evolved on. The chamber doors sealed behind them with a sound like the closing of a tomb. The Devourer fleet materialized at the edge of Earth's solar system like a plague of mechanical death, their bioships emerging from hyperspace in formations that had consumed 17 civilizations across the galactic rim. Each vessel was a living nightmare of organic technology and endless hunger, designed to strip entire worlds bare and convert their biomass into fuel for the fleet's continued expansion. Fleet. Commander Gorth floated in the neural command chamber of his flagship, his consciousness directly linked to the ship's sensory systems as he studied, the blue-green world hanging like a ripe fruit in the inner system. Earth appeared exactly as the Galactic Council had described it, a soft garden world, populated by weak creatures who had never faced serious predators. Target analysis complete, Commander, his tactical symbiont reported directly into his mind. Through their shared neural link, standard oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, single sapient species, minimal orbital defenses detected. Population density indicates approximately 4 billion processing units available for conversion. Gorth's feeding appendages writhed with anticipation as he calculated the feast that awaited his swarm. The humans had been dismissed by every major galactic power as untested weaklings with no martial tradition. An entire world of soft prey to harvest at leisure with no significant resistance expected. Initiate consumption protocol, Gorth commanded, his orders rippling through the fleet's shared consciousness like waves through water. Deploy harvester drones to the outer system first. We shall work our way inward systematically, saving the primary world for final processing. I wish to savor this feeding. But as the first wave of harvester drones crossed Jupiter's orbital zone, something impossible happened. The space around the gas giant erupted with contacts that should not have existed, massive biological signatures moving with coordination and purpose that defied every tactical model in the Devourer database. Commander, the tactical symbionts. Mental voice carried confused alarm. We are detecting unknown biological entities in the outer system. Configuration does not match any known spacefaring species. They appear to be moving in hunting formations. Gorth accessed the sensor feeds directly, his consciousness recoiling in shock at what the ship's organs revealed. Creatures the size of frigates moved through space with impossible grace, their hides scarred by meteor impacts and armored with metallic plates that gleamed under the distant sun. Enhanced sperm whales and blue whales, modified for void survival, coordinated in tactical pods with the precision of trained naval squadrons. Impossible, Gorth transmitted to his fleet commanders. No biological organism can survive extended vacuum exposure. These readings must be sensor errors. The lead whale pod struck the harvester formation with violence that shattered Gorth's certainty. Bioelectric discharges from modified organs crippled drone navigation systems. while massive jaws enhanced with synthetic materials and equipped with void-capable echolocation tore through the mechanical swarm, like living torpedoes. Guided by millions of years of refined predatory instinct, all harvester units in Sector 7 destroyed. The tactical symbiont reported, its mental voice rising with something approaching panic. The biological entities are employing coordinated pack tactics. They are hunting our forces. Gorth's flagship shuddered as something massive impacted its outer hull with calculated violence. Through the bioship's pain receptors, he experienced the assault of a creature that violated every principle of space-based warfare, a megalodon the size of a destroyer, its prehistoric bulk enhanced with reactive armor plating and its ancient killer instincts augmented with modern targeting systems. "Deploy full battle swarm," Gorth ordered, his mental voice carrying the authority of a predator that had devoured worlds. "Eliminate these biological anomalies and proceed with planetary consumption immediately." The Devourer fleet advanced toward Earth in formations that had crushed the defenses of 3 galactic civilizations. But as they crossed the asteroid belt, the true scope of humanity's preparation revealed itself like a nightmare coming to life. The asteroid field exploded with activity as hidden hibernation chambers opened like flowers of death throughout the rocky debris. Enhanced pterosaurs with void-capable respiratory systems and wings, lined with solar collection membranes, emerged in squadrons that moved with military precision that would have impressed the galaxy's finest pilots. Their riders, humans in advanced combat suits, guided precision strikes against Devourer bioships with weapons that had been specifically designed to exploit the weaknesses of organic spacecraft on Earth's surface. Admiral Torres stood in the primary command center watching tactical displays that showed the systematic dismantling of an invasion force that had been considered unstoppable. Phase 1. Complete. Space-adapted megafauna have engaged the outer swarm successfully. All terrestrial assets initiate Phase 2 deployment. Across Earth's continents, massive doors that have remained hidden for decades began opening in mountainsides, ocean floors, and beneath major urban centers. What emerged would have given the Galactic Council delegates heart attacks if they could have witnessed it through their worst nightmares. From the Amazon basin, enhanced titanosaurs rose from concealed facilities like living siege engines, their 100-foot lengths modified with bioorganic missile systems and defensive armor capable of withstanding orbital bombardment. Their impossibly long necks, equipped with advanced sensor packages and targeting systems, turned skyward with the patient focus of artillery spotters who had been bred for warfare across geological timescales. In the frozen wastes of Siberia, ice sheets cracked and shattered as Mammuthus primigenius variants emerged from their waiting chambers. These enhanced cave mammoths bore tusks, replaced with railgun assemblies, and hide augmented with reactive armor that could absorb energy weapon strikes. They formed defensive formations around major population centers with the disciplined coordination of veteran military units. The oceans themselves came alive as enhanced mosasaurs and prehistoric marine reptiles, modified for both aquatic and terrestrial combat, surfaced to defend coastal cities. 40-foot marine predators moved through the water with the tactical coordination of naval battle groups, their ancient predatory instincts enhanced with modern military doctrine and communication systems. But it was in Earth's urban centers where humanity's true genius revealed itself to the watching galaxy. The creatures emerging alongside human military units weren't just resurrected predators serving as living weapons. They were partners, family, members, hunting companions forged through millions of years of shared evolutionary pressure. Direwolves with neural interface modifications moved in perfect synchronization with human tactical teams, their pack-hunting instincts seamlessly integrated with modern military communications. Enhanced saber-toothed cats served as mobile heavy weapons platforms, their riders directing precision strikes while their mounts provided both mobility and devastating close combat capability. Most terrifying of all were the apex predators working directly alongside human commanders as equals in the ancient dance of warfare. Tyrannosaurus variants stood beside human mech pilots, their massive jaws equipped with projectile systems, while their enhanced intelligence allowed them to coordinate complex tactical maneuvers as full partners rather than mere weapons. The first Devourer bioship to attempt atmospheric entry encountered Alpha 7 personally. The enhanced Giganotosaurus met the descending vessel with a leap that carried its 14-ton mass 40 feet into the air, its jaws clamping down on the ship's primary sensory cluster with a bite force that could crush battleship armor plating. The bioship's living hull, designed to absorb and process organic matter for fuel, instead found itself being systematically dismantled by a predator that had been perfected through 65 million years of evolutionary arms racing. Commander. Worth watched his invasion force disintegrate with growing horror that transcended mere tactical defeat. These weren't just animals defending territory. They were a coordinated ecosystem of warfare, each species filling specific, tactical roles in a defense network that spanned from orbital space to planetary core with the efficiency of a single vast organism. Status report, he demanded through the fleet's neural link, his mental voice carrying overtones of panic that infected his subordinate commanders. 73% of advanced forces destroyed or disabled, came the fractured response from his tactical coordination center. The biological entities are demonstrating tactical coordination beyond anything in our threat assessment databases. They are herding our vessels into predetermined kill zones with strategic planning that suggests unified command structure. On the tactical displays visible to Gorth's consciousness, the nightmare became clear. Massive space whales were driving his bioships toward orbital platforms where enhanced pterosaurs waited in carefully prepared ambush positions. His vessels, designed to hunt and consume unorganized planetary life, were being systematically outmaneuvered by predators that understood modern military doctrine better than most galactic civilizations. Retreat, Gorth transmitted to his remaining fleet elements, his mental voice carrying the defeated tone of a predator that had discovered it was prey. Signal all units. We abort the consumption cycle immediately. But Admiral Torres had anticipated this moment and prepared for it accordingly. All units implement Phase 3. Show them why Earth is called the cradle of killers. Throughout the solar system, the final assets began their awakening. Deep ocean trenches released creatures that predated complex life itself. Enhanced anomalocaries. Specimens the size of capital ships emerged from abyssal hiding places, their grasping arms now equipped with energy weapons and their compound eyes replaced with targeting systems, capable of tracking multiple spacecraft simultaneously across interplanetary distances. The asteroid belt revealed its ultimate secret as hibernation chambers opened to release the crown jewel of Project Lazarus. Enhanced specimens of species so ancient that they had existed when Earth's continents were still forming began to stir. Predators from the Cambrian explosion, augmented with technology that made them living starships, emerged to hunt with instincts that were older than vertebrate evolution itself. Commander Gorth's flagship found itself surrounded by creatures that exceeded the worst imaginings of his species' mythology. In his final transmission to the fleeing remnants of his fleet, his mental voice carried the broken tone of an apex predator who had learned what it meant to be hunted. This world produces no natural predators because the humans exterminated them all and then brought them back as weapons. They didn't evolve alongside these creatures. They conquered them, improved them, and turned extinction itself into a military recruitment program. The Devourer fleet's retreat became a complete rout as Earth's guardians pursued them beyond the solar system's edge, ensuring that no vessel survived to report back to their swarm. Space whales herded the fleeing bioships into kill zones where prehistoric nightmares waited with modern weapons and ancient hunger. In the aftermath, Admiral Torres contacted the Galactic Council with a message that would reshape interstellar diplomacy for generations to come. Earth's defense operations have concluded successfully. No external assistance was required. Please update your databases regarding humanity's military capabilities. We expect formal apologies and revised mutual defense agreements within the standard diplomatic timeframe. In the council chambers, Ambassador Crix stared at the transmission with mandibles that had not stopped chattering since the first reports reached them. Around him, representatives of 43 species sat in stunned silence. Finally understanding the magnitude of their error in judgment, Dr. Watson's final words to the council echoed in their collective memory like a prophecy fulfilled. You mocked Earth's silence. But silence was never weakness. It was patience. We were waiting for something worthy of waking our war beasts. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. After all, who would dare mock the species that had turned their own extinction? Events into military assets and made family members out of the deadliest creatures their world had ever produced? In the depths of Earth's facilities, the war beasts began returning to their patient slumber, guardians waiting for the next threat foolish, enough to challenge the world that had given birth to 4 billion years of perfectly evolved killers. Earth fell silent once more. But now the galaxy understood exactly what that silence meant.